Western Norway. It is all you thought and a lot more. From quaint fishing villages perched along the rugged seacoast to amazing waterfalls that cascade out of the rugged and steep mountains to cliffs, some of the tallest in Europe, thousands of feet tall, rising up out of the valleys. Snow-covered, waterfalls, thousands, no millions, watering the beautiful flowers in the valleys below. River valleys with farms, quaint little farms nestled here and there, sprinkled like dust, like gold dust, red barns and white houses. Water, the north, clear up on a level with the top of Alaska. Mountains, ancient, quaint villages and homes. This is Scandinavia. This is Nordic country. Tallest rock wall in Europe. More river valleys, amazing cloud formation, quaint and beautiful churches. And the list goes on and on. Fishing villages, water, skiing, ski jumping, beaches, kayaking. There is so much to say and not enough time or space to say it. This is Norway, and Nathan and Sandy are delighted to share with you images from our recent trip to this amazing land. You have never seen so many waterfalls in your life anywhere. Norway is truly a land of water. From the ocean, the seaside, the inlets, the fjords, the rivers, the waterfalls, and the mountains. It is a green, well-watered land. Even in the summertime, everything is green. Brown, like brown grass, is a rare sight. And the mountains are the source of that water. Mountains loftily tower over everything. Reminds me of Switzerland, with the steep mountains that rise up out of the valleys, except a lot more water than Switzerland. And those valleys are dotted with picturesque farms, red barns, and white houses. Everywhere you go, raising sheep and cattle. As we're heading north, up to the very top of Norway, our next stop is Trondheim, a large city of around 216,000 people. In times past, Trondheim was a major port and shipping and shipbuilding city. That has kind of gone away, and now It is a major tourist destination, and a very picturesque one at that. And this is one of the residences of the King of Norway. Not exactly Buckingham Palace, but a beautiful place nonetheless. King Harald V of Norway is very popular and beloved by his people. Even the resident seagulls are paying homage to their king in their own peculiar way. The Nidaros Cathedral of Trondheim is a Lutheran church cathedral built over the burial site of King Olav II, who became the patron saint of the nation. And it is the place where the Norwegian monarchs are consecrated to this day. The beautiful and stately Nidaros Cathedral was built over a period of 230 years between 1070 and 1300. The Sverresborg Folk Museum of Trondheim is a museum with artifacts going back to the 17 and 1800s. And also a reconstructed village. Actually, many of these buildings were moved in here from various places around Norway, and a little town was recreated with craftspeople doing their work. And as you can see, there are many old, hundreds of year old wooden Scandinavian style houses and buildings, many of which have roofs that have sod on them that were excellent for insulation against the cold winter weather. Notice the careful craftsmanship that went into putting these log and wooden buildings together such that they have survived for hundreds of years in this wet environment. And now we come to the crown jewel of this museum, this stave church from 1070 AD. So it's almost 1,000 years old, and it's one of the few remaining stave churches left in the world today.
The entire church, if you remove the walls, you still have a standing church because of the staves. And that's why it's called a stave church. But there are very few stave churches left. There used to be approximately 2,000. Today there's like 27 left. But this is the northernmost stave church in the entire world.
This church is from 1170.
With that white stuff up there, that is paint in the 1600s, or maybe when the church was moved in the early 1700s. And we can't really see the patterns all that clearly, but on the inside over here, we can see flower patterns down to the right better. And there are also some biblical inscriptions on the walls around on the inside as well.
Welcome to Honningsvåg, Norway, the northernmost city at the very top of Norway, hundreds of miles north of the Arctic Circle. This windswept, barren, and treeless land covered only with mosses, lichens, and grasses is home to about 2,245 hardy souls. So this is a port city, and fishing and tourism are the two big things that happen here. The Nazis occupied this town during World War II because it was vital. This area is near the shipping lanes where the Allies shipped supplies to Russia. And when the Nazis pulled out at the end of World War II, they destroyed everything in the town except the church there in the background. All of these buildings have been rebuilt since World War II. The spruce trees that you see planted there on the hillside as a snow break, along with the snow fences, have been planted subsequently. They're not native to this area. Well, this is very much a fishing port. Pulling in the nets. And here at the port, I had a chance encounter with one of my long-lost Norwegian relatives. From Honningsvåg en route to North Cape, which is the furthermost northern city in Norway and in Europe, we were going to stop at a few fishing villages along the way. A lot of fishing here because the warm waters of the Gulf Stream hit the cold waters of the Norwegian Sea, the Barents Sea, in that area, and creates a lot of plankton, which draws a lot of fish. And because the water doesn't freeze, fishing can be done all year long. So it's very beneficial to the community here to be able to fish year-round. This is dried cod. They call it stockfish because they catch them and then they gut them and then hang them up here on these wooden stalks. And they just hang out here for about several months and dry in the salt air. And they don't do anything else. No salt, nothing. They just dry in this cold air. No flies, no birds, nothing here to cause them to deteriorate. And then when they're dried after a few months, this dried codfish will last for years. Dried cod all over the place up here. So later in our trip, I bought a small package of stockfish and tried it, and it wasn't really very tasty. It was very bland. I threw it away. But if that's all you had to eat and you were pretty hungry, I think you'd get used to enjoying it, even though it kind of tastes like cardboard.
Than the males are, exactly. But also she's much smaller, right?
Crabs.
180 meters. So these are getting huge, yeah? And they are worth a lot of money. A kilogram is about $40 to $60, depending on, the market really. And this claw, for instance, the right claw, I go around, of the male and the female is always bigger. And they use this claw to defend themselves and for mating.
Fish is a big part of the culture up here and the food that is eaten. And this is more stockfish or codfish that's hanging out to dry. It's cold and windy. We're up above some fjords here on our way to North Cape. In the middle of this seemingly barren wasteland, I found this giant granite boulder with a big chunk of quartz in it. Now, this land looks really barren, but really it's grassy, and all over the place are reindeer that are herded and tended by the Sami native indigenous people. Thousands of reindeer all over the place. Yes, reindeer are found kind of all over the place. In a nearby fishing village, they were grazing around the houses and on the nearby hillside. And here we see a rather shaggy reindeer calf feeding nonchalantly nearby. Meanwhile, mama reindeer and the rest of the herd tend to their own matters a short distance away. Reindeer are pretty safe here. They have no natural predators other than occasional eagles that will swoop down and snatch a young reindeer. So now we have finally arrived at Nordkapp, or North Cape, which is the furthest northernmost point on the European continent. It's very cold and windy here. It was the 20th of June and the time of the summer solstice, and the temperature was 41 degrees or about 27 degrees with a wind chill. The cliffs are very high, about 1,500 feet above the sea level. And here we see the monument that marks the most northern point on the European continent. So this is June 20th, 2025, and we are the northernmost point in the European continent in North Cape, Norway. It's a cold day. This is like the longest day of the year. The sun, oh, you can't tell, has not set and will not set for several days. Get your face in there. Yeah, you're here. Anyway, that globe behind us marks
not blown away by the wind.
Northernmost point on the European continent.
Yes.
And here we are. We've been in the Antarctic, and now we're up, and we've been in the Arctic Circle north of Fairbanks, Alaska, but now we're at a point on the compass or the atlas or the globe, latitude-wise equal with same latitude as the very top of Alaska, the Barrow, whatever the name of it. And at the Visitors Center, I found some more of my long-lost Scandinavian relatives. We all seem to have big noses. Leaving Honningsvåg, Norway, after a very eventful day up here and way up in the north. Saw lots of reindeer. The daffodils are just blooming. Very few trees. Trees are not native to this area. There's a few spruce trees growing and a few deciduous trees. I saw some lilacs. It was very difficult. Mostly it's grasses, sedges, heather. Saw heather, lichens, mosses, all kinds of grasses. The land was rather, the hills were rather dull green, but apparently in another few weeks they will be all different 20 shades of green as the hillsides green up. So as we were cruising out of Honningsvåg, we got the privilege of actually sailing around just past the North Cape lookout, 1,500 feet above, and there you can see the little globe symbol, and actually the point, the land that sticks out there in the picture, that is actually the furthest point there in the distance, northern point of Europe. But because of its inaccessibility to tourists, the spot that we visited is, for the tourists' benefits, called the northernmost point on the European continent. Here we are looking up at North Cape, 1,500 feet above. You can see how rugged and tortuous the moss and lichen covered cliffs are. Very, very rugged coastline there. So there in the foreground is the technical northernmost point of Europe. It's out a few hundred feet past actual North Cape, but who cares about technicalities? The North Cape is much more dramatic, and that's of course where the tourist center is. So, all right, now you know that little piece of trivia. Welcome now to Tromsø, Norway, just a little ways south of Honningsvåg. Still way north of the Arctic Circle, though. You can see lots of trees, a lot of greenery, and surrounded by beautiful snow-covered mountains. This city of 40,000+ people is considered and is called the gateway to the Arctic because many of the Arctic expeditions by Amundsen and other Scandinavian explorers started here. They got their provisions here and also recruited many of their crew members from this city because they were accustomed to cold weather conditions. Notice the 3 ski jumps in the background, a testimony to the love of winter sports of the people who live here in the north. So we went up to a high point overlooking the city, and you can see that the mountains, about 4,000 or 5,000 foot mountains surround the city. Even though it was in June, it is cold enough that there's still a lot of snow on the mountains. There's our ship, our Holland America ship in the background there, and the city is surrounded by many fjords, estuaries, inlets that come in from the ocean. And there in the background you can see the Cathedral of the Arctic, a very modern, beautiful church, which we will visit next. This is the Arctic Cathedral of Tromsø. It is not technically the Cathedral of Tromsø. There's another church that is that, but is colloquially called the Arctic Cathedral. And this very modern looking church, a Lutheran church, was built in the 1960s. It was built during the Soviet era, and actually underneath the church is a bomb shelter. But it is actually very beautiful, as we are about to see as we step inside. From the terrace in front of the church, you have a stunning panoramic view of the city of Tromsø. That's from the front of the church, and the back of the church looks right up into the mountains. Absolutely another stunning view. The church is positioned between the two, appropriately so. There, this marvelous stained glass window is a modern representation of Jesus Christ, and the chandeliers appear to be like icicles hanging down from the ceiling. Very beautiful. Now here we are cruising out of Tromsø in one of the fjords, estuaries, inlets, bays, whatever. I mean, this whole area of Norway is just surrounded by water and islands, and hard to know what is a bay, a fjord, a inlet, an estuary, or whatever, just an arm of the ocean. But sailing out and sailing in to these cities is as scenic as actually visiting the cities that you can see. Wonderful little manicured, beautiful farms that mostly raise sheep or a few cattle along the rivers and the bays and the estuaries. And now we're heading for the archipelago known as the islands of Lofoten, and specifically the city of Leknes. This is coming in. This is like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And remember that we're still north of the Arctic Circle, the land of the midnight sun. So the sun doesn't set for many days. And we're looking at countless islands off the coast of Norway, silhouetted against the sun, which is never set, but it's rising after it kind of dipped to the horizon, but not below it. And now it's rising back up again as the morning advances. Absolutely stunning. I sat transfixed on my balcony of my stateroom on the new Statendam Holland America ship that we're sailing in, shooting this video and making many pictures. Every scene was different, and I could not stop. As we travel along the waterways are numerous little towns along the way. Some are little villages and hamlets, and some of the towns are a little bit larger, mostly accessible by boat, but there are some highways and roads that go to some of these. But they're all very, very beautiful. Our next stop is Lofoten Island, and the seagulls have spotted us and flying back and forth are looking for handouts. Another stunningly beautiful port on the northern Norwegian coast, still well above the Arctic Circle. Look at those mountains, jagged, snow-covered, beautiful little farms and hamlets and villages. We're about to take a tour of this island. Actually, in addition to a couple of other neighboring islands and various fishing hamlets. Stunningly beautiful, picturesque, and iconic Norwegian fjord land. Granite boulders here on the edge of the shore with ferns. And little lupins. Little mini dogwoods. Cornus, heather. So here's a fishing village that is about 800 years old, and some of the buildings are almost that old. Been well maintained. A lot of fishing. Everything here is about fishing. Look at this. The sea, the little iconic villages, and the majestic mountains that rise right up out of the sea, still covered with snow here in the end of June. And there in the center of the picture, you can see the racks that they use to hang the cod on to dry them out. So we're still above the Arctic Circle. And so it's, even though it's the third week of June, the spring flowers are blooming. I'm not the only one who's captivated by the flowers. Yeah. We like flowers. Yeah, we love flowers. Oh, that is beautiful. See? Picture. So mountain ash is very common around here. Sorbus. That along with birch trees. A lot of birch trees and mountain ash. There's more racks for drying fish. And there's the open ocean out there. Surrounded by water on all sides. Little town in Lofoten where I had lunch. And there's a little cafe where I got a delicious stockfish burger and some local ale. In the 41 countries that I have so far visited in my life, I have to admit that this is some of the most stunning scenery that I've ever seen. Here are some ancient antique wooden fishing boats that are part of a museum. You see fish heads and fish hanging all over the place. Fish heads are used for making fish soup. You got the cod for stockfish. And these will last for years and years and years. It's dried. Somebody said they will last for 50 years. And these roofs were covered with seagull nests who are sitting on their eggs. I've seen a lot of seagulls in my life, but I've never seen this before. And these are fish heads that are dried, and they are then shipped to Africa where they make fish head soup. It looks like a horror show. These are monkfish heads that apparently are a delicacy in Nigeria, Africa, and places like that. These are so scary looking, I don't know who'd want to eat them, to be honest. After that horror show, let's get back to some more beautiful scenery here on the island of Lofton on the western Norwegian coast. After looking at these amazing pictures, please don't tell me that you've seen scenery a lot more beautiful than this. I'd have a hard time believing you if you told me that you had. I've seen some pretty cool places. I've lived in Switzerland, traveled all around Switzerland. I've been in the Canadian Rockies. I have been in the Antarctic. I've been in many places in Alaska. I have been in the Cascade Mountains and the Rocky Mountains and Yosemite and Glacier and Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, Iguazu Falls in Brazil and Argentina. I've spent much time around Lake Tahoe and the high Sierras of Nevada and California. I've climbed many mountains, skied on many mountains, and I live a couple hours from the world-class Oregon coast and many other places. But this pretty much rivals the best of anything I've seen to this point in my life. Little fishing village nestled in there.